Hi, I'm Professor Yehuda Kahane. Welcome to the Reboot Humanity site. We have loaded a special presentation for you that will take about 15 minutes to watch. It will give you a complete picture of what Reboot Humanity is all about and your place in it. We hope you join us. As an International Insurance Society veteran, I especially cherish the invitation and the privilege to be here today at the kickoff of the 2012 International Insurance Society Conference and to the signing of the PSI Convention, the Principles for Sustainable Insurance, under the umbrella of the UNEP, the UN Environmental Protection Agency. We have a few moments to speak about the most critical social, economic and environmental issue we face today, what we call C. As risk managers, this is our area of expertise. I believe that the insurance industry must lead the world to a sober path of sustainability and even beyond sustainability. The place where I stand today and where I invite you to stand with me is that we are at a critical choice point for the well-being of our planet. This choice point is not a nice thing to have. It is rather a ringing of a fire alarm. Quite literally, our global house is on fire. Archimedes used to say, "Give me a place to stand and I can move the earth." During my long and happy career in the insurance industry, I've often used insurance instrument as leverage for handling challenges in what seems to be unrelated topics. A quick example is when a very small group of us, all insurance experts, collaborated on establishing agricultural insurance plans for Latin America. The policies served as collaterals for private loans to the farmers. This fulfilled the missing link connecting advanced technologies with the needed financing and made the USAID program successful. It generated a remarkable increase in the agricultural output of the entire continent at the beginning of the 1980s. As you can see from the top of each slide, we shall talk about Reboot. It is a critical thinking technology. My colleagues and I have developed it in order to move us forward into a quantum leap of solving our shared global problems. We sometimes need unconventional approaches and a fresh look at things in order to reach novel solutions for the issues that vex us. President Kennedy's 1961 stand that the United States will send a man to the moon by the end of the decade triggered the greatest paradigm shift of our age. It was the first time, in 1969, only 4 short decades ago, that we first saw Earthrise on the moon. It was the first time ever we saw ourselves as one little planet in the middle of nowhere. In that moment, thousands of possibilities that we have never before seen opened up on the road in front of us. And in the following 4 decades, we have seen advance after advance that have connected us together. This is the post-industrial technological evolution that reshaped the world. We are now connected through via satellites to a web of knowledge and conversations. We have the internet, the mobile phones, computers, Facebook, TED Talks, YouTube, Wikipedia. What an extraordinary world we live in. The industrial and post-industrial revolutions for the first time triggered and accelerated the change processes on our planet. Many of these processes are exponential. An exponential process means roughly constant rate of change. It takes a while before it becomes noticeable. But at a mature stage, the absolute level of change snowballs and may become dramatic. Over time, an exponential growth or decline process resembles the shape of a hockey stick. This effect is made clear by an example of fast-growing bacteria in a petri dish. The first doublings are no problems because the dish can accommodate much more than this. However, just before the final doubling, the one that will hit full capacity, the dish is only half full. And 3 doublings earlier, it was only 7% full. Let's look at exponential processes in the C framework. The C framework in our language is initial of society, economy, and environment. Let's talk about something you all know, global population trends. For millenniums, our population and its growth were very small. Around the year 1800, world population has reached the 1 billion level. In 1900, only 100 years later, we already had 1.6 billion. And in the year 2000, just 100 years after that, we hit 6.1 billion. That is a hockey stick model. In the last century, the net change was 4.5 billion people. Until recently, one of our leading paradigms was that our petri dish was sparsely inhabited, large and empty, plentiful, and seemingly endless. And then, boom, exponential growth became explicit in our lives. Suddenly, our planet is almost full. In a crowded environment, mutual interdependency among people is complex and great. And to govern such a crowded place with all the inherent pressures and still be attentive to the various individual and social needs and desires, it requires a new kind of democracy, one that will make use of modern means of connection and communication. In the economic arena, we are also surrounded by many hockey stick models. Think about growing consumption, for example, about urbanization, about the use of energy, just to name a few. In the year 2007, for the first time, global statistics showed that more than half of us lived in urban areas. Our giant megacities make city dwellers the most vulnerable of species. They must buy and transport almost everything they consume. For example, we are vulnerable to our energy needs. Imagine there being no electricity for an entire day here in Rio or in the city where you live. Now stretch that to living without electricity for an entire week. No food, water, transportation, communication, refrigeration, computers, internet. A real catastrophe. Not pretty. We are depleting all our resources at a tremendous rate. We burn oil like there is no tomorrow. 200 years ago, most people didn't have oil and didn't know what to do with it, except for using it to grease maybe their wagon wheels. In ancient times, tar was used to mummify corpses. Within the short span of 150 years, we are close to depleting all the Earth's oil reserves. We see similar hockey sticks rising and declining in the environmental arena. Glaciers are melting, fresh water is disappearing and getting polluted, air pollution, waste accumulation. Arable land is washed away because of deforestation and poor care of topsoil. In the past 4 decades, we've destroyed 80% of all ocean fisheries. We've destroyed 30% of all plant and animal species and substantially damaged delicate food chains and the entire ecosystem. Microorganisms in the oceans that supply half of Earth's oxygen are in critical danger. The combination of all these processes, we are nearing to a perfect storm. We are reaching the petri dish limits, and if we don't do anything, well, you do the math. It's pretty simple. The harshest of all the truths is that regardless of what we humans do to the planet, Earth will survive. We, on the other hand, may get booted out from the game by Mother Earth. We are playing now the game of our lives. Do you hear any alarm ringing? Somebody may find our remains in an archaeological dig many centuries from now and wonder, what were they thinking? Didn't they realize that they were doing this to themselves? I hope we are not that short-sighted. We shall see. While our economies grew and our material environment has flourished, we didn't pay attention and neglected our ecosystem and the environment. We can't live without it. Try living for a week without water or food. We must find ways to decouple economic growth from environmental damages. It is possible to be a rich and clean country. A poor country becoming a rich country does not have to go through a rich and dirty stage. It should go directly to the rich and clean stage. Global climate change is a serious economic issue. It is estimated that it annually costs between 5 to 20% of the global GDP. Still, it is not the most important environmental issue. The loss of ecosystem is an even grander and more serious problem. And the rapid loss of biodiversity means lost flexibility and resilience, and it is probably the greatest of all. So critical is biodiversity that the United Nations declared the decade of 2011 to 2020 the decade of diversity. A less diversified environment is equivalent to holding an undiversified financial portfolio, but when we talk about the effects on a global level, this has an awesome negative impact. For example, most of the world production of major crops come from just small number of varieties in comparison to the tens of thousands of varieties that were grown until just a few decades ago. It is just a matter of time until certain virus, fungi or bacteria that feed mainly on these varieties will develop. A realization of such risks can be demonstrated with the case of the Irish potato blight of 1846. Relying on just two potato varieties, both vulnerable to the blight, resulted in the death of 1 million people and immigration of another million from Ireland. In order to treat these problems, we must urgently shift the paradigms of how we see ourselves. What's the sense of doing business if we are destroying our environment? We have to change the ways we do business. We have to find ways to stop the destruction and reverse the damage of these trends. Research shows that the average person living in the developed world uses ecosystem services that are 3 to 5 times larger than their share in available biocapacity. And currently, altogether, the undeveloped countries consume 1.5 times the biocapacity of our planet already. There are 5 Earths on this slide. If every person on Earth lived the same style, we would need 3 to 5 Earths to sustain us. But alas, unlike a family that can finance temporarily living beyond its means by borrowing or selling some assets, that cannot be done at a global level. Unfortunately, we know of no nearby planet that can offer help. So we are living now in an ecological overshoot, and still, American way of life is not negotiable, as some people used to say. The invisible hand that guides our capitalistic system was supposed to automatically reach an overall optimization of allocation of resources in the economy. In a global economy, what will that invisible hand guide us to do next? Look at the options on this slide. In which direction do you hope the invisible hand moves us? Although there are many places we can point our fingers to place blames on, the truth is that it no longer matters how we got there. All that matters is that we get out. It is an old, I believe it is Chinese proverb that says that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is today. Many actions we should have taken 20 years ago, but how we got here and what we did or didn't do no longer matters except as lessons for the future.